All right, guys, we're back with lesson 19 for module 2. And our objective, your objective, is that you're going to begin dividing a 2-digit and 3-digit dividend to get a single-digit quotient. Remember, quotient is the answer. Dividend is the number you're actually dividing up. And then you'll hear me say the word divisor, and divisor is the number of groups, the number of groups that you're going to be putting the dividend, the big number, into. So let's go ahead and get started with lesson 19, problem set. So really quick, let's read our directions to make sure that we complete what's required of us. They want us to divide, and then they want us to check our answer. The first one's done for us. So quickly, as a little review, here's the division. 41 is our dividend, the number that we're dividing up. So 41, the dividend, goes inside the little division house. The divisor is 30. Here's 30 on the outside. That tells us how many groups we're going to have. The quotient is going to be the answer, and then you'll have a remainder. And then what we can do is we will take our quotient and remainder and we will check it. We'll work backwards to see if the 41, the dividend, matches what we had on the problem. So let's go ahead and go down to number 2. So we got 80 divided by 30. 80 is our dividend. So remember, it's going to go inside the division house. 30 is our divisor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to count by 30s and see how close we can get to 80 without going over. So we got 30. We have 60, because you double 30, you get 60. And then if you were to add these numbers up, the third multiple of 30 would be 90. And then you're like, oh wait, 90 is too big. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to teach you kind of a strategy that will help us when we get into really longer division. So how close can we get to 80? Well, it's going to be 60. So you're going to write 60 underneath the 80, and then we're going to take that away from the 80. But before we do that, how many groups of 30 am I able to make that is going to give me 60 total? So how many groups? So 30 times what number would give me 60? Well, that's going to be 2. So that's going to go out on the right. And then we're going to go ahead and take away 80 minus 60, and that will give us 20. Now the question is, 20, you have 20 left over. Let's think if they're 20 coins or 20 sticks. And you got to put 20 sticks into 30 groups. Can you put evenly all 26 sticks into 30 groups? No, you can't, because this number is smaller than the divisor. So that means whenever this number is smaller than the divisor, that becomes our remainder. So the quotient is going to be 2. There's going to be 2 sticks in 30 groups. So the 2 is going to be our quotient. And how many sticks are going to be remaining? Well, it's going to be 20 left over. Now here's where we check our work. We take first our quotient, which is 2, and we're going to multiply it by the divisor. So 20 times 30, that should be 60. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the 60 and we're going to add our remainder, whatever is left over, to the 60, and 60 plus 20 is 80. And does this 80 match our dividend? Check. Check. Yes, it does. So that means the quotient 2 remainder 20 is the correct quotient by doing the multiplication check. Let's go to C. Our dividend is 71. Our divisor is 50. So think of, you have 71 sticks. You got to put them into groups of 50. So if you count by 50s, should be easy. We got 50, double that, that's 100. Well, that's too big. 100 is way too big. So 50 is right underneath 71. So we're going to write 50. We're going to draw a line going through that line, through this line that I just made. We're going to draw a line, and we're going to say 50 times what number gave us 50? Well, 50 times 1 gave us that number. And 71 minus 50 that would give us a remainder or a difference of 21. 21 is smaller than 50, so that means we cannot divide 21 into 50 groups. So that ends up being our remainder. So this 1 is our quotient. It should go right in the ones column above the 1 and 71 with a remainder of 21. Well, let's check our work. We're going to take the 1 in the quotient area and we're going to multiply it by the divisor. That's 1 times 50. That's going to give you 50. Then you add what's left over, the remainder, and you should hopefully get 71 as our check, and it matches the dividend. So that means our quotient 1 remainder 21 is correct. Now let's go down to D. And let's go ahead and put 270 in the division house. That's our dividend. That's the number we're dividing up. The divisor is 30. And I'm going to draw my line going down. Now we're going to count by 30s. Let's go 30, then 60, then 90, then 120. And you know what? I'm going to stop there because I want to show you how we can do this division problem with just these four multiples of 30. All right. I know, and some of you know, you can get closer to 270. Some of you know you can get to exactly 270. But sometimes we don't really know our multiples very well. So if we know at least 4 of them, we can do this division problem out kind of in a different way. The closest I can get to is 120. So I'm going to put 120 is still smaller than 270, and then I'm going to subtract it. Before I do that, what number times 30 gave us 140? Well, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 30 times 4 is 120. You can go ahead and put 4 on the outside. And now you can subtract. You can do 0, 5, 1. All right. Now looking at this, I have 150 left over. And 150 is bigger than 30. That means I can continue to divide. I guess I can technically do another 120 again and write it underneath 150. Draw my line going out. What number times 30 gave me 120? Well, that's 4 again. And then what do I end up as my difference? That's 0 and that's 30. And look at that. I can use another 30 right here. So I can write 30 and subtract. Draw my line going across. 30 times what gave me 30? Well, that's 1 with a difference of 0. So there is no remainder. And this is what we call partial quotients. These are part of the actual overall answer. And what we do now is we take all 3 of these numbers and we don't divide, we don't subtract, we don't multiply, we add them up. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. So the 9 is our answer, our quotient with no remainder. So how do we check that? We go ahead and do 9 times 30. 9 is the quotient, 30 is the divisor. We know that 9 times 3 is 27. So 9 times 30 is 270. So that matches our dividend. So our answer 9 is correct. Now some of you are like, well, that's a lot of work that we just did. And yeah, it is. But guess what? We didn't really have to deal with, really big numbers. We kind of used what we knew and we just took a little longer, a little extra time. But when we get into really longer division, you might want to favor this model rather than the other method I will show you in the next couple lessons. All right, let's move down to E. Let's go ahead and I'll write it over here so I have some room. 643 is going to be divided by 80. And I'm going to draw my line going down. And I'm going to count by 80s. Or sorry, count by 8s. Or yeah, I'm going to count by 80s. You just think of them as just 8s but add a 0. I got 8. And I know 8 times 2 is 16, so 8 times 20 is 160. I know 8 times 3 is 24, so 240 is 8 times 30. And then 8 times 4 is 32, so 8 times 40 is 320. And you know what? I'm going to stop there because I feel confident that, I know these and I might make a mistake by doing the more of the higher multiples of 8. So rather than make a mistake, I'm going to use what I know right here. The closest I can get right now with these three numbers is 320. So we're going to write 320. I'm going to take that away from 643. Before I do that, what number did I multiply by 80 to get 320? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 80 times 4 will give us 320. Quick little subtraction. 3, 2, and 3. So I got 323. Well, guess what? I can do another 323. Sorry, 320. Because that's smaller than 323. What number did I multiply that by 80 to get 320? Well, that's going to be 4. What's left over? 3. 3 is left over. That means 3 is smaller than 80. I can't divide anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, here's our quotient. 4 plus 4 is 8 with a remainder of 3. Let's check our work. Let's take the 8 times, let's go back a little bit. Let's do this. We got to do 80 is our divisor, and we're going to multiply the quotient, which is 8. 80 times 8. So just basic multiplication. 8 times 0 is 0, and 8 times 8, if you count carefully, you should get 640. Then you take your remainder of 3 to get 643. And so this matches our dividend, so that means our quotient is correct. And the final one on this page, let's go ahead and do 215 as our dividend, the number that we're dividing up. 90 is going to be our divisor. So let's count by 9s. We got 9, so we'll do 90. And then we have 18, or 180. And then we have 270. And I'm looking at that, and 270 is too big, so it looks like I'm going to do 180. So I'm going to do 180, subtract. 90 times what gave me 180? 90 times 2, because it's the second multiple of 90. That's 2. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract. I got 5 minus 0 is 5. 1 minus 8 I can't do. Need to borrow from the hundreds, make that 2 into a 1, and change that 1 in the tens column to become 11. So I got 11 minus 8, which is going to be 3. And then 1 minus 1 is nothing. So 35 is what's left over. I cannot divide 35 by 90 because 35 is smaller. So I have my quotient, which is 2, with the remainder of 35. And so if I check, I do 2 times 90, which 2 times 9 is 180. And then if you add 35 to it, 0 plus 5 is 5, 8 plus 3 is 11, and then 1 plus 1 is 2. So this, our check, does match the dividend, which means our answer 2, remainder 35, is the correct quotient and remainder. All right, let's look over at number 2 word problem. It says Terry has the solution that 299 divided by 40 is 6 with the remainder of 59. His work is below. We need to explain to Terry explain Terry's error in thinking. He's wrong. And then we have to find the correct quotient. So let's look at his work. right here. Here's his work right here. We got $2.99, his dividend, times that by 40. Let's make sure he multiplied correctly. He says 6 is the quotient. 6 times 40. 6 times 4 is 24. So 6 times 40 is 240. So that's right. Did he subtract correctly? 9 minus 0 is 9. And then 9 minus 4 is 5. So his remainder is 59. So what do we know about this 59 remainder? It's bigger than our 40. That means he could have divided one more time because his remainder is larger than the divisor. So let's use that as our explanation. We can write Terry's error is that the remainder is greater than the divisor. He needs to divide one more time so that the remainder is less than the divisor. Okay, so there's our explanation on why Terry is wrong in his thinking. And so now that we know that he has to divide one more time, on the right, we need to show that thinking or show that work. So if we know that it can't be 6, it's got to be one more time. So 1 more than 6 is 7. So I'm going to put a 7 above the 9 in 299. 7 times 0, that's going to be 0. And then if you do 7 times 4, that will give you 280. And now we can subtract, and we would get 9 and then 1. So the remainder is now smaller than the divisor of 19. So the correct quotient, let's do our multiplication check to make sure this is correct. We're going to do 7 times 40, which we already knew was 280. And if I add carefully the 19, I get 9 ones, 9 tens, and 2 hundreds. So that matches our dividend. So that means our answer, 7 remainder of 19, is the correct quotient. And then moving down to number 3, it says a number divided by 80 has an answer or a quotient of 7 with the remainder of 4. They want us to find the number. So a number. Right now, what I would like you to do is write this out, so that we know the actual math terminology for division. In a division sentence, we always have a dividend. That should be an N. There you go, dividend. And then we're going to divide it by the divisor. And then that will equal the quotient. So that's the math terminology with division. We have dividend divided by the divisor will give us the quotient. Now looking at the problem, it says a number divided by 80. So it looks like we don't know what the dividend is because the number divided by 80 is our divisor, has a quotient or has an answer of 7 remainder 4. So we're looking for what is the dividend. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to set this up as a little long division problem. So we're going to say, okay, in the doghouse is the dividend. Well, what's the dividend? Do we know what that is? No, we don't. That's our question mark. So let's go ahead and put a question mark there. So our divisor is 80. And our quotient is going to be 7 with the remainder of 4. So we got to figure out how to figure out what the dividend is. And kids are like, I don't know. And they start just plugging in random numbers and they, guess and check. But you really don't need to do that because honestly, if you have the answer and you have the divisor, all you have to do is work backwards to find the dividend. So I'm going to do it in blue. So we know the quotient is 7, remainder 4. So what we do is we take the 7 and we multiply it by the divisor, which is 80. Okay, so we got 80 divided by 7, or 7 divided by 80. Well, if I know that 7 times 0 is going to be 0, and now I got to figure out, well, what's 7 times 8? So if you carefully can figure out what 7 times 8, you will get the right answer. So if you have to do a list of multiples of 7, or however you need to figure that out, 7 times 8 is going to be 56. So 7 times 80 is 560. And now you're going to go ahead and add the remainder of 4. So it's going to be in the ones column. So you have 560 plus 4 is 564. And now this is your dividend. The dividend is 564. By us working backwards, we can find the dividend with the answer and the divisor. So let's go ahead and write our sentence out. Let's say the dividend, which is technically the number we were trying to find, but we're going to use the mathematical term. The dividend is 564, period. All right, guys. So we're getting now into doing some more long division. That's going to be more exact. We're not going to estimate right now. We're just going to get into following the steps and the procedures. So I will see you on the next lesson when we get into some bigger numbers and some numbers that are not always ending in 0. We're going to get some more like divided by 17, divided by 23. And so we're going to start using our skills to apply them to the long division problems. All right, so I'll see you on the next lesson.